Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Saturday Conversations, a podcast where we can go a little deeper with so many folks familiar within the Pittsburgh sports scene. The gentleman with me today is plenty familiar to area hockey fans. Shoot, he is an area hockey fan. Josh Getzoff's been calling games on SportsNet Pittsburgh for the past, 2 seasons, Josh? Is that right?
2 seasons. Yep, you're right.
2 seasons. Before that, on the Penguins Radio Network for 8 years. He's done an incredible job with Penguins media. Has done all kinds of stuff in a short period of time. Does an awesome job with it. Josh, how are you, man?
Great, Jace. Thanks for having me on. I'm happy to be here with you.
I love it. I love it. Talking a little hockey in May. Wouldn't have it any other way. We have a lot to discuss, too. Going to talk about Josh's path into broadcasting, some of the differences between TV and radio. Josh has done both, obviously. We'll also talk about what he's learned from Mike Lange and some thoughts on the Penguins offseason so far. But first, I have a message from our presenting sponsor of this show, Edgar Snyder and Associates. Law firms come and go, but what law firm in Western Pennsylvania has been fighting for injury victims for more than 40 years? Edgar Snyder and Associates. What firm has a staff of over 130 people who live and work here? Edgar Snyder and Associates. Law firms come and go, but Edgar Snyder and Associates is a name you can always trust. So remember, there's never a fee unless they get money for you. If you've been hurt in an accident, call 1-800-94-EDGAR or visit edgarsnyder.com. They're available 24/7. All right, let's go with the ongoing coaching search, Josh. And in these things, we get to the bio stuff later, a little current topic right off the hop. But I wrote about Mitch Love, and I'm not asking you to agree with it. You can disagree with it all you want. But what do you think about Mitch Love as a possible coaching option for the Penguins? And if you don't like it, who do you like?
I'm intrigued by it. I will say that. I think this whole process has been interesting, and I'm sure you would say the same, Jace, because you've been around for a while. This is the first time in
call me old.
I'm calling you experienced. You've been around this team for a while, is what I meant to say. And I think when you look at the Penguins, the last decade, this has not really ever been a thing of conversation. We've just kind of been like, okay, Mike Sullivan's the coach next year. We kind of know who his assistants are. I mean, maybe one or two guys would interchange here or there as far as the staff was concerned, but it was, for the most part, fairly consistent over the last decade, which was an anomaly when you look around the rest of the league. But I think Mitch Love, to me, is a really intriguing guy. And the first thing I would say is his rise has been rampant, and it's been really interesting to watch. I mean, for a guy that started as a strength coach to now be being considered to potentially coach the likes of Sidney Crosby next year in Pittsburgh as the head coach is pretty impressive. And to do so, I think in less than 12 years of being involved in coaching is pretty impressive as well.
Yeah.
I think he's on the younger side, which is encouraging. And anyone now, to me, that's working with Spencer Carberry immediately has, piqued interest as far as guys that I'd be interested in seeing have an opportunity behind a bench as the head guy, because all that guy has done is impress. I would say even going back to his stops prior to Washington, but then obviously when he gets that head coaching opportunity, he's just done a tremendous job there, and the results speak for themselves. So guys that are with him and a part of his approach and learning from his vision and how he runs a team are intriguing to me. He's definitely a guy at the top of my list. Another guy that I'm just really curious about, and I know he's been spoken about a little bit. Part of it is he's still working. So it makes it, I think, more difficult. And let's not forget, Kyle Dubas is also still working over in Europe.
Yeah, that's an odd part of this coaching search, too. He's
Right.
in another country doing something else.
Yeah.
But double duty, and he's going to come back with a coach, it seems like. Sorry.
It does seem like that. I mean, it seems like realistically, we're going into Memorial Day weekend as you and I speak here. And, man, I mean, I would be shocked if it's another week plus to see where this head coaching search goes. But the guy that I want to get to, and I don't want to beat around the bush too much, but he's always intrigued me. I have no idea if there's a connection here. I just feel like he'd be a nice fit, is Manny Malhotra. That's a guy that, as we know, you always, in these situations, you look for dots to connect, right? And he was an assistant coach in Toronto when Kyle was in the management there. And I think there's probably not just familiarity, but a friendship between the two of them. Manny's also younger. He's bided his time. He's still coaching, as I mentioned, but doing an incredible job in Abbotsford with the Canucks there, the AHL team. And his work has flown under the radar because of all the drama with our friend Jim Rutherford and the NHL team there in Vancouver this year. But he's done an exceptional job with Abbotsford. He's a guy that I think has immediate respect because of his NHL career. and some of the obstacles. We know the eye injury that kind of prematurely ended things for him, but he'd be an intriguing one for me because one, he's a little bit of a name recognition type of guy, but he's not a guy from an experience recognition standpoint in the coaching profession. So I think, Mitch Love is really intriguing, but Manny Malhotra is just a guy for me personally. And like I said, I'm saying that as somebody who has no idea who Kyle has talked to and where he's at in the process as far as narrowing guys down. But he's always struck me right from the beginning in this search as a real wild card type of pick.
You know what I like, Josh? And yeah, Jay Leach is another name in there. I think Jay Woodcroft. Yeah, right. I might be missed. Drew Bannister. I mean, we know that Kyle has cast a wide net, as he should. I will say this. This takes me into my next question. I do hope that Kyle brings somebody here that this is going to be their first opportunity at an NHL head coaching gig. I think there's something to be said for that. I think they sort of got it right with Mike Johnston. And I know that sounds insane because it didn't work out. Sully took over and history is what it is. But like somebody who can teach the game and change some things, and you need a personality different than Mike Johnston, certainly. And that's why I like Mitch Love, because I think there is a different personality that I think Manny Malhotra could be that too. But I look at this and think there are talented players on this roster. You need to bring younger players along quicker. You probably need to make some systematic changes. But I want to ask it to you without putting words in your mouth. What do you think, conceptually, not so much a name, but what does a new coach need to bring to the Penguins to inspire success here?
I really think whoever this person is, you hit it on the head with the messaging and the energy and the enthusiasm. I think those are going to have to be three of the big check marks. But let's also not pretend that we don't think that when Kyle's meeting with these people, he's laying out the plan, right? Like he's saying, here's what you're stepping into. Here's what I envision doing over the next 2, 3, 4 years. Because he always talks about he wants to build the Penguins to a position where it's not a just get back in the playoffs. It's a contend for a Stanley Cup and be in that contending spot for years to come following their arrival back onto the scene. So that's why I think this coaching hire is so intriguing, because it's going to say a lot about who Kyle feels like is the right person to do that behind the Penguins bench. But I think the obvious things are the enthusiasm. The obvious things are the energy. I would expect to see somebody who's high in both those categories. I would also, like you said, expect to see somebody who has a fair amount of developmental experience. You're not just going to be talking about the guys like that we saw last year, the guys like the McGroartys, the Koivunens of the world. I would even throw Owen Pickering in there as well. There's going to be other guys that are going to come into the mix now and really want to challenge for spots. I mean,
there needs to be.
Yeah. Absolutely, right? Like this lineup needs to, I think, actually, if you go into opening night and you have a lot of young faces, I don't know, I'm speaking as the broadcaster, and that to me is exciting. And I think from a fan perspective, it's also exciting, right? Because it's the freshness of it all. And there's that doesn't always mean it's good, but it can mean it's exciting and intriguing because you're like, it's a little bit of an unknown, and it's going to be fun to find out on the ride of this process to see how things work. So I think you want that I mean, obviously the guy needs to be a commanding presence, but I think you also want somebody who knows how to guide younger players, knows how to take them in and make them work. And by the way, as I say that, I know what people may misconstrue that as Mike Sullivan did not know how to do that. No. I think that's an overblown storyline, and I don't want to necessarily go down that road, but he definitely had his hand in a few guys developing. Most notably, I would say the biggest at the top of the heap is Brian Rust, by the way. So I look at this next coach as being a guy who can bring some people in and really bring them in to be impactful NHL players and grow with him, because that's going to be the situation. This guy's he's not going to be hired to be fired in a year, unless something insane goes down. This guy's probably going to be here for 2, 3, 4 years. And if he keeps winning, more.
Yeah. I'll go down that path, Josh. It's a bunch of crap. Anybody who wants to be critical of Mike Sullivan. He's a tremendous hockey coach, and we're forever indebted to the work that he's done here. It was also time to move on. And I think Sully would be one of the first people to tell you that. And I'm glad he landed in a great situation. Awesome dude.
I 100% agree with you. And I would say this, to anybody who has the revisionist history of the last couple of years, and sure, when you miss the playoffs and we're as spoiled as we are here in Pittsburgh, it's easy to get angry quickly. But 10 years, 7 playoffs, two Stanley Cups. I think they won the East Division during that COVID season. So there's a divisional title in there too.
Yep.
Most teams would take a 10-year stretch like that in the NHL. And I know that's easy to say, but it is now done, his era. So when you compare it to what other teams have gone through in 10 years, I think most teams would take that stretch.
Yep. Moving forward, too. Moving forward, a little bit of both. Sully. All right, last one for you, Josh. Fun one. We got Sid and Fleury over in Stockholm playing together for the IIHF World Championships. I don't know if I have a great question, but as a hockey fan, as a Penguins broadcaster, man, that's just got to make you feel good. It does with me. I just love seeing those guys together. They're ending the appropriate way.
100%. And I would say, not to go off on a huge tangent, but I think the hockey world was robbed at the end of Fleury's career with how he handled their broadcast coverage that night. I mean, that was ridiculous to not be able to see him salute the fans for the final time. But now we're not so robbed because we get to see him play a little bit more. And I think it's kind of cool. He's playing for his country. You mentioned the Sid connection, and we've already seen some of the stories that have come out of there. And man, listen, I mean, I always cheer for the U.S., but if there's a team that's going to win the gold in those final World Championships for Marc-Andre Fleury, that'd be a hell of a way for him to go out. So I just think
going down for that. Yep.
Yeah, right. It's been really cool. It's been fun to see him out there. And I'll be honest, I don't usually watch the World Championships because it just lines up with life during the day. And then also the Stanley Cup playoffs kind of take precedent at night. But I've watched a couple of the Canadian games. I just watched his last game when he was in goal, and it's just fun to see him out there. He's still the same Flower, and man, what a career! It'll be interesting to see what happens now with his Penguins relationships when it's all said and done, as far as just like the organization and how and if he comes back and whatnot. So I'm curious to see it, but man, I mean, it was fun to have those two moments this year, the game in Minnesota, and then obviously that game earlier in the year in October with the salute from the fans, and just special guy. And as you know, Jason, and
awesome.
His impact has been unbelievable throughout the game of hockey.
For sure. All right. In our second segment, we're going to talk about Josh's career path. We'll turn the arrow around or spin it around, whatever you want to say. We're going to talk about the guy on the screen instead of the Penguins, how he got into this, as well as some stuff that I think has prepared him from now. But first, per our usual, have a message from the Bradenton Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. Stay with us after 30 seconds.
Embrace the laid-back charm of island life while sinking your toes in the sand and discovering real, authentic Florida in the Bradenton area. Unspoiled beauty and pristine beaches, a vibrant waterfront downtown energized by local arts and culture, fresh Floridian cuisine with a flourish of rich history, and friendly locals ready to welcome you to this preserved paradise on Florida's Gulf Coast. Plan your visit today at BradentonGulfIslands.com.
And welcome back to Saturday Conversations. Our guest this week, of course, Josh Getzoff. All right, second segment, talking about your path a little bit. What made you want to get into this crazy world of broadcasting?
Well, like so many of us, I was an athlete growing up, and like so many people, I realized at a certain moment, I think I can actually remember the exact moment. I was 12 years old. I was playing on the same team as former Penguin Eric Tangradi, ironically enough. And Eric, as we've now seen with how he progressed in his career that summer, got a lot of offers to play on these tournament teams and these select teams and get to travel around and face off against all these different organizations. And I did too, but on the lower team. And I was kind of like, okay, well, maybe this is a sign that I'm not necessarily cut out for the highest level of hockey. I thought I was, my whole life growing up, I was going to play in the NHL, right? That was what I thought I was going to do. So at that moment, I kind of was like, well, I still want to play hockey, but how can I be involved in hockey? And at first I was like, well, I don't want to be a coach. I don't want to do any of that kind of crazy stuff. So let's get even crazier, and I'll try to work in the media. And I know you can appreciate this, Jason, but like as so many of us in our era of growing up, there was a hard copy every day of the newspaper. And I started every one of my days opening the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I would flip to the sports page and I read it front to back. And that was how I started my mornings when I was 12, 13, and, going on from there. And it was just something that I loved doing every day. And you'd read the articles from the writers, and you'd start to these people, like they were just headshots of people in these articles. And they were like mythological creatures to me, of these media people. And, you'd watch on TV you'd see like the people you'd watch on TV will call the games all the time, or you listen on the radio and hear the voices, but everything just seemed larger than life for like a young kid at the time. But it was always something that I wanted to get into. And I just stayed on that path. Two of my best friends and I actually started a broadcast club in high school. We went to Upper Dublin High School, which is outside of Philly. Alex Cohen, who is now getting a lot of games, but is the fill-in play-by-play voice for the Chicago Cubs, actually, on Marquee SportsNet. And Bourque has missed a bunch of games recently. So Alex has been in that booth and calling games. And the Cubs have been winning a lot, so he's getting a lot of
good situation for him.
Yeah, it's been fun for him. And then my other good buddy is Stephen Watson, who ironically is also in the NL Central with the Brewers and FanDuel Sports Network in Milwaukee.
I'm gonna get you over to PNC Park, my man.
I know, seriously. I'm
not going to subject you to that.
It's funny because the Brewers are in town this weekend, and he's actually, this is one of the trips he does not have, so won't see him this weekend. But he does a lot of reporting and hosting for them, and then he also does stuff for the Golf Channel, and actually just worked the PGA Championship when Scotty trounced everybody again. So he's had some great experience too. So the three of us started it. We've obviously gone on to different paths, but all stay in the broadcasting world. And from Upper Dublin, I went to Ithaca College, which I still always say, you know, like I grew up outside Philly, but I really grew up in Ithaca. Like that's, as I think many people would say when you went to college, so we found out like what it was like to not have your mom do your laundry and to not have meals cooked for you at home all the time and just kind of live as a human on your own and figure out the day-to-day life also, you know, navigating classes and what you wanted to pursue and social stuff. And, you know, I played on the hockey team there for 2 years and I stopped playing after my sophomore year because I realized that, you know, if I really wanted to get into broadcasting, all the games were on the weekends. And that's when I was traveling with the team and not in school and on campus. So I really dived into that my spring semester and my sophomore year as far as getting just really involved. And then I never looked back. Did a lot of TV, radio, writing, magazine, anything like that I could jump on with our on-campus stuff, which was really, really prevalent and a lot of opportunity to do any and every sport. And I did. And then moved on there to Elmira, New York, for a job in sports anchoring and reporting. Started there actually as the tape operator, which some people who can
you got to my question. Come on,
right? That's but here's
what is a tape operator? All right. I'm jumping in there because I think it's interesting. When you were, I think, a senior, if I got this wrong, you were interning at a TV station near Ithaca. And they had you do a little bit of everything. Take that. I mean, you're shooting, you're editing, you're on camera, and then you're a tape operator, whatever the heck that is. And now you're, you know, on camera. Now, in our world, I liken that to, I think it's important for you to do a little bit of everything. I spent time on the copy desk editing things. I covered high school sports. I covered sports I didn't even know were sports. I think it's important to do a little bit of everything, to be versatile. And I wanted to sort of prompt you and say, why do you think that's important? Why do you think that has helped you?
I just think that makes you, I mean, it's an easy answer, but you're more well-rounded and you're also more appreciative, right? I mean, you see people doing things that you've done before and you know, some of that stuff's annoying. Some of that stuff's not easy. And some of that stuff is really arduous. And you respect them because you've been there and you know what they're dealing with. Now the tapes, they don't really exist anymore. And
no kidding.
I don't think I'm that old, Jason, but like, when I think back on that, I'm like, man, it was like they queue up a package or whatever the story of the day was. And I was literally, as advertised, in front of a tape deck, had to push it in and press play. And if I press play like 2 seconds late, there was that awkward pause before it started on the air. So I was really good at that, like the press and the play. But yeah, that's, you know, I agree with you. I think that's so well-rounded as far as how it helped me out. And it also kind of showed me, okay, in a way, you learn pretty quickly, like that's something, with all due respect to the people that do it, that's something I don't want to do. I want to work in this field, but I don't want to do that. I enjoy reporting. I enjoy interviewing people. I enjoy, you know, writing my own scripts. I don't get to do that really as much in my current role, but I still write my intros out, not word for word, but like to be able to have some of that still within my day-to-day. And it just, I don't know. I just think when you go through that, you learn what works and what doesn't work from your approach. And it takes you, I think, leaps and bounds further than it would if you pigeonholed yourself into one particular setting.
Yeah. Quickly, because I want to move on to some stuff and talk about Mikey and another guy who will remain nameless until we get to the topic. But so switching from radio to TV, how does that change your thing? Does it change your preparation at all? Does it change how you call a game, how you think, or do you try to call the same product for both?
I would say it is a change based on, anyone that you ever talked to about this. And trust me, when I made that transition, I reached out to a bunch of people around the league, because anybody who's doing TV right now at one point was doing radio. You never see somebody jump right to TV as far as play-by-play is concerned, just because, quite simply, there's way more avenues on the radio to do it than there is on the TV. But I talked to, John Forsland. I talked to, obviously, Mikey. But I talked to, one guy who was really helpful was Dave Gosher, who does the Vegas Golden Knights. And before he got the Vegas job, he was the Boston Bruins radio guy.
Yeah.
And he gave me a lot of pointers and a lot of tips on how to do it. And it was really helpful. But also, I think, as with any job, but especially in a job where it's all repetition based, you get better by doing it more. And I think when I first started calling games, there was a radio call, which by that I mean is, I'm telling you, the guys at the left wing circle, when you're watching on TV, you don't necessarily need to know that. As I've done more games, right? As I've done more games, you can still tell the story with inflection, but with less words, and also just appreciate the awareness of your viewers to know what's going on. And I think, honestly, it's a benefit being in Pittsburgh for that too, because we have really knowledgeable fans here. If this was a brand new hockey market, or kind of like a happy-go-lucky hockey market where people didn't totally understand what they were watching, maybe it would require a little bit more as far as the descriptive analysis. But, I feel like I've scaled it back. I've always believed, and I still do, that in television, the color analyst is the star. In radio, the play-by-play is more of the star, just simply because it's radio, right? Like, you can't see it. So that person needs to be talking more. They need to be the center of the broadcast. TV, it's really more the color. They're the one breaking things down. They're the one adding stuff in. And you have your moments of play-by-play, obviously, for goals and whatnot, moments like that. But the little ins and outs of everything are all relying upon a strong relationship and work with your color person. So that's probably been the biggest thing that I've learned. And I've had an absolute blast doing it. Like, it's what I've always wanted to do. It sounds cliche, but it is 100% true. And I've loved every second.
Good stuff. We're going to finish up by chatting with Josh about his relationship with Mike Lange, as well as somebody else who has influenced him in the broadcasting booth. At least I think so. But first, I want to tell you about UFC Gym. Looking to challenge your body and sharpen your mind? We'll step into something more than just a workout. Welcome to the brand new Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy at UFC Gym. Here, it's not just about training. It's about living the values of honor, discipline, and respect. Whether you're a total beginner or leveling up your skills, you'll be guided through a structured program led by third-degree black belt that builds confidence, strength, flexibility, and real technique. Head down to the UFC Gym at the Waterfront or in Market Square to learn more about the exclusive 3-month introductory package today. All right, Josh, this is an easy one, but I have my own memories of Mike Lange and what I think of him. What about yours? How much did he mean to you? I'm guessing you did not dislike being around him, but how special was he in your broadcasting career?
Oh, he's I've said this to a few people, since he passed away, but it's true. I mean, like, if you think about where I'm at right now, there is, and I'm not exaggerating, there is 0% chance that I am where I'm at right now, if not for Mike Lange. Like, I'm not trying to be dramatic or overemphasize my relationship with him, but he literally, he trusted me to fill in for him when he first stepped back on traveling. And then when he started to really move away from the booth, he vouched for me. Like, for whatever reason, he looked at me and he said, I trust this guy to do it. So I think by him doing that, the fans trusted me. And that helped me. Not that I was, looking for that carrot, but that helped me immensely as far as just like my growth, because that's the hardest people to gain the trust of, is the fans. And when Mikey says you're okay, they feel like you're okay. So I was really grateful for that. He didn't have to do that, and he did that. And I like to think that he did that because he and I were very close and had a really good relationship. He was an extremely influential person. That moment aside, just on my career of how I call games, of how I approach calling games. The story's been told, but when I first started doing games on the radio, he gave me an hourglass that was.
Do you still have it, by the way?
Oh, I do.
Great.
Every game
Good.
I put it right in front of me. Still today, even doing TV, and honestly, as long as I'm lucky enough to do games, it's not going anywhere. But he gave that to me, and he said, time and score. And he said the gunner Bob Prince had given it to him way back, so I have it. Time and score. I keep it to myself, and it stays hidden in my backpack until I break it out when I get set up in the booth every game. But in all seriousness with him, like his influence here obviously is massive. His influence on the game of hockey is insane. But I just think when it came down to it, and this, like he was really just a great guy. Like he was very open with his time. He obviously was a really good people person. He gave me a great piece of advice when I was really young in my career. Many, but two that stick out to me. The first was, you got to be where the people are. You can't be, especially in our role, you can't be somebody who looks like you're sitting on a throne calling a game and you're never seen or around. And I've always enjoyed being in social settings and getting involved in the community and stuff like that. So that was never anything that I thought I'd be not into, but hearing him say that kind of reinforces it. The other thing is, you got to make him laugh, which is something that I've always held in the back of my mind. And by that, he means, you talk to a lot of these players and, over the course of an 82 game season, it gets mundane. Like there's the same.
Levity's important, man. Levity's important.
Absolutely. And you give them something to make them laugh, even if you make yourself look like an idiot and they still laugh. Like I go down that route all the time with those guys. And I thank Mike, because I don't know if I would take the same approach if it weren't for him. But he's just an unbelievable guy. And I will say, the day that they honored him at the Penguins game in February was obviously extremely emotional. But one of the cool cathartic things about that was I got to spend the day with his family, because we were not doing the game on SportsNet Pittsburgh.
That's right.
So I was with his sons, Tanner and Ian, who I had never met, but I had heard a lot of. And it was just kind of a really cool experience to spend time with them, their wives. Tanner is a young son who's about the same age as my oldest son. So it was great to spend time with them and just kind of reminisce about their dad and live a little bit through them with him. So that was just a really special thing, and I think kind of gave me a little bit of closure personally on the situation. But man, what an incredible person, and his impact will never be forgotten.
I know, no doubt, man. I wrote about this in my column after Mikey passed, but I'll never forget being at Bell Center in Montreal, and we're just waiting for the room to open, or maybe Sully to come out or something like that. And he starts talking. He's like, Jason, we had Dave Molinari, and now we have you around here. I can't do a good Mike Lange. We need Steve Mears, but I'm like,
yeah, he's a good one. He does a good one.
What planet did I wake up on that like Mike Lange is talking about me and Davey in the same sentence? Like, number one, that should be wrong. Number two, like, it's the coolest bleeping thing in the world, man. Like, to know that you've earned the respect of Mike Lange, that like what he stands for and what he's done and what he knows, like, dude, I'm good. I can just walk off at that point. But all right, I'm gonna get you out of here on this because it's sort of the same thing. It's a little bit of a transition, but not really. It's still honoring the same thing. The 2-9er, who I think Bourque just does such an amazing job covering games. You started out with some other people, but obviously spent some time next to Bourque as well. What's that like? Working next to him. I know you don't do it as much anymore, only when he's over on the TV side, but what has he meant to you in your career as well?
Oh, if Mikey's one, he's 1B as far as the influence that he's had on my career. That guy, first of all, as anyone knows who's listened or watched him, lives and breathes the Penguins. It is not an act. It is not put on for broadcast. That is who he is, and he cares more about this team than anybody.
Josh, you know what? Real quick, let me make a point with that real quick. You know what I think that's so good and so genuine? Like, he gets excited and he's flipping out and he's excited over goals, and then he rips the team when they're bad. Yep. It's just honest. Good.
Yeah, he's 100%. That's it. He's very honest, actually. And I think that's his greatest quality, is because he calls it like he sees it. And maybe even more so, the Penguins allow that to happen, right? There's some teams that probably would say, like, hey, whoa, hold up, like, back it up. And to Bourque's credit, he has no problem saying that stuff, because if a player has a problem, they have conversations. Like, I've seen it. So I know this happens, and it's all cordial, and it all passes under the bridge afterwards, because it's just pure analysis. Yeah, and that's what it is. But his impact's been awesome. When I first started filling in for Mike, I worked with him obviously exclusively, and he took me every building, because I had not been to him, obviously. Introduced me to who I needed to meet, showed me where things were. We still to this day, pretty much exclusively, the two of us get dinner on the road, do our thing like that. So he's just become, like, not just a broadcast partner. He's a great friend. We text all the time. When Mikey passed away, obviously he was the first person I called. And he's just an incredibly generous guy with his time. And also just a guy that would do anything for you. Like, when I have questions about anything, he's right there. And we've just become really close over the years. And I love spending time with him. I love being around him. I think he has, to bring a Sullyism back, he has an infectious personality.
That is a Sullyism.
Right? When you're with him, though, like, he draws you in.
He's a man.
He loves talking hockey. He and I always, every year, the past few years, we get together during the Stanley Cup final for one game and just, have some beers and some wings and talk about a lot of stuff, but watch the game itself. And we are going to do that again this year, and I look forward to that. So that'll be a lot of fun. But he's just an amazing guy, and Penguins fans are really lucky to have him, because I now have met and know everyone around the league. Bourque's cut from a different cloth, from his level of care, his level of preparation, and just his enthusiasm. It's unmatched around the league, and it's what makes him one of the best analysts out there.
Josh, this is so much fun, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. You do an awesome job. I've told you this privately. I think I'll say it on the podcast. You're a pleasure to watch, to listen to watch you interact with the Penguins. It's so much fun. I admire you, and thank you very much for doing this.
Thanks for having me, Jason. It means a lot, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, buddy. Probably what, July 1st? Maybe a little free agency? I don't know if there's
or maybe the coach press conference. Who knows?
Oh, that's right. Yep. I jumped the gun. All right, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks, Josh. Make sure you like and subscribe. You can get all of these videos and so much more from our Post-Gazette, North Shore Drive, and YouTube podcast channels. For Josh Getzoff, I'm Jason Mackey. You've been watching Saturday Conversations. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.